I said the external shocks came, they flew over Togo, they flew over Ivory Coast,
and got to us.
They flew over everywhere and got to us. And I've always said that, look, if you come into government, you are like a father who has started a family. You should know that along the line, external shocks will come. You know, or you ought to have known that these things will happen. And that's why we have experts who also watch the economy, they watch all the areas and say, look, President and your team, don't go that way, listen to this, don't go that way, listen. So that if you listen, you always you keep afloat. Because at the end of the day, you can't stop Russia from going to war. You can't. You and I cannot stop COVID from coming. This morning we are hearing that something leaked, as we are all suspecting, something leaked from some lab in Wuhan. They are still discussing it. So that's what we are saying, that when you come into governance, you are building a country. If you start a program, don't force to finish when you know you don't have the funds. You do your bit, another government will come, it will continue. Then there's that continuum of governance. But this government wants to start a policy, finish it, and claim the credit. It doesn't. That's why we are here. At the end of the day, if we had listened to people like Lord Mensah, people like
Kwame Pini,
and
Gachi,
these were things that were said far back. But 3 years into the government, we saw that.
But the point is that the government, and rightly as you said, the government doesn't listen. I've always said this. Earlier when we started and we said the government doesn't listen, so we're listening. We're listening. The government's a listening government, and you would usually find political communicators say that. But then at the end of the day, we are now realizing, and this is the painful truth, that the government doesn't listen. If the government were listening, if the things that we had said to the government had paid little attention to it, we will not be where we are. The government just doesn't listen. The government likes the sound of its own voice. The government is interested in cut down size of government, we won't mind you. Cut the convoys, we won't mind you. Stop overspending, we won't mind you. Don't appoint this person, we won't mind you. Everything you say, the government says, we won't mind you. And the buck stops with the president. To the extent that even key members of the NPP are telling the government and is still not listening, is a problem.
Yeah.
And that for me is a problem. I mean, if you won't listen to anybody, listen to the people who are part of your political family. If you won't listen to them too, we have a problem. And that's, so far, that's how we have conducted ourselves. There are people who are appointed or nominated by the president for approval, and questions are raised about them. The president says, I still believe in him. They go there. Yeah. The president wants to do A, B, C, D. The people tell him, don't do that. He goes ahead. Chaka.
A big shame. Listen, one of the most empowering...
And the painful thing is that the president is not running, or the government is not running the business of government with its own finances.
Exactly.
They're using our money. I mean, Obiama was at the vetting table talking about GRA being the best to collect property rates because they will get more money. It's not the government's personal money, not individuals' personal. It's all of us our money. So how is it that when we are all contributing to what we are doing, and then when we give you an advice, you don't take the advice?
It's shocking because one of the most empowering things the president ever said to us as a people was to be citizens and not spectators. I think that is very empowering.
Yeah.
Although Johnny told you
plagiarize,
plagiarize, of course. I knew Johnny was going to get it.
It's not me.
Everything's
And so
It's not me. It's not me. But it's not me. That is it.
Small digression. Personally, I always feel very empowered when I think about that phrase, be a citizen, not a spectator. But here, when you apply it practically, there's still a lot of pushback you see from the government, as though, as mere citizens, and I can't even call us mere citizens, we are the ultimate stakeholders, but you put any type of input into what government is doing, and it's almost as though, well, you don't have the requisite knowledge, you don't have the skill, you don't have the know-how, but those who claim to have had the skill, the know-how, the background, are not showing the capability. So why not, as William will say, be creative? Let's get input from others. And again, I don't want to be the person here comparing IMF programs. Governments who've gone to IMF, they failed in one way or the other because they couldn't manage their fiscal space. So governments past and present. We go to the IMF, and even with the IMF, the timing for me was too slow. There were other programs that government was offered in order to mitigate some of the fiscal hardship. Government said, no, we're not going to do so. So the pushback at every turn, I find it very debilitating. You can't reach out to government. You can't have any input. You want to be a citizen, not a spectator. You are, continuously being pushed out of decision making. So at what point does government, bring you in? At what point are you able to be a real and valid stakeholder in issues of national discourse?
So one thing I have learned is that there's a huge difference between public finance, corporate finance. There's a difference between government economics and then, if you like, private or public corporate economics. This government runs the country as if it's a company.
That's right. And that's because you are getting because you're getting people who have come into government with apologetically no industrial input. Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, as our finance minister, is coming to the space as somebody who says, give me 1,000 cedis. I will be able to give you 1,200 at the end of the month, when he would have made maybe 1,004, 1,005 and taken his 300 cedis. So you are happy to give your money to him. And that's why he has consistently told us to borrow. And he has actually supervised the borrowing because that's the business he understands. Measure Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta with the likes of Kwesi Botchwey or Safo Mafo, Barry Du, or people before them. And you see that he has done a terribly bad job. But pride and arrogance and biblical coats and white shirt wearing will not let him acknowledge that he has failed.
So the point I was making, John, is
he has failed. So he's brought the corporate life into the public space.
See?
And he's not acknowledging that in the public space is a different ball game altogether.
In the public space and with public economy and public finance, the interests are so varied and wide that you have to listen, consult, be careful in all the decisions that you make. But in the corporate space, the ultimate agenda is to make profit.
That's right.
And if the company goes bust, you pay your creditors, and then you wind up, and if there's anything left, the shareholders can just share the spoils, and then they close down the government. The company. But the state does not run like that. The state, the governance is continuum. So you come, you do a bit, somebody comes and does a bit. That's why we are saying we are developing. We are not here to make profit, as it were, just to make sure that the people of the country have a certain basic lifestyle, food, clothing, shelter. But if you bring that corporate entity or corporate governance mentality into public office, then you're always looking for us borrowing, and then you are not even able to look at the short-term, mid-term, and long-term benefits or impact of what you are doing. So I think it's high time the government begins to listen to all shades of opinion, because we own the country together. It is not when you are in trouble that you say we should come behind you.
But
you know what I mean?
I honestly think that. So, for example, on Johnny's Bite this morning, I spoke about the fact that MMDCs are being made to pay 20,000, 18 MMDCs in the Volta region are told to pay 20,000 cities each to support the 66th independence anniversary. I've spoken with 4 or so of them. They are not in support. They are not happy about it. But they still have paid these monies. Now, we know that the local government and the central government have actually given monies for these celebrations. So what exactly is the 20,000 going to be for? And if they are not in support, why are they not speaking up? But they are coming on the backside to tell journalists, because I got the information yesterday that they actually paid and that they want me to speak about it. Who is in charge? Lord Comey? That's the name they mentioned to me. And why are they taking 20,000 from the people? Could they have actually gotten these 20,000, lumped it together for 18, 20,000 by 18, lumped it together and help their people in the Volta region? Yes.
So the whys and the who are the answers that I was giving from the beginning. That if it were a corporate entity, that was celebrating certain anniversary,
and they were giving
and their
money.
books were not good, would they go ahead and spend money?
They won't do it
because it doesn't happen in the corporate
that
space.
is serious might do that.
But
so a company that doesn't have vision might do that.
the correct thing to do.
But the point is that
You know.
Look at where we are. We are begging IMF. We are begging China. We are begging everybody. It's gotten so embarrassing that the German government organizes a local press conference in Ghana to tell President Akufo-Addo and his government that if you do not cut down on the size of your government, we won't be able to put in a word for you for China to forgive you your debt. That's how serious
the
matter has gotten to.
Information I have is that thing came about, if the information is correct, I mean, I stand to be corrected, that the president or the government made some representation to the governments and people of Germany to speak to China as friends,
but
to sort them out.
But Obroni will tell you that what you are doing is nyang.
You see, so at the end of the day, if you knew what you were doing was good, why didn't you go straight to China and say?
Because you can't.
And go and beg directly.
And now the Germans are telling you that, look, if you want us to help you, do A, B, C, and D. This A, B, C, and D, what do you call it? Mr. Thompson, what do you call it? The Delex Finance.
Ken Thompson.
Joe Jackson. Professor Lord Mensah, John Gachi, Bokpin.
The media in general, you said it.
Who has not said it to you before?
You know, so
the president is a stubborn man.
But you see, what I shudder to, understand is that why is the government bent on doing all the projects that they throw in the budget? I mean, nobody is putting a gun to your head to do all that.
William,
to say we are
promises.
No, even if you promise, it is only a fool who doesn't change his mind.
So
at the end of the day, at the end of the day, if you draw a budget, you say you are going to build 20 schools and you are having a challenge, you are unable to balance your books. Just reduce it. Another government will come and continue.
No, they don't say.
You've introduced a free SHS program, good concept, bright idea. We're having challenges.
William,
when they were going to feed two streams and they were not able, what did they do? They asked one stream to come over.
But William,
so why don't you do the same in the other aspects of the economy? Let's keep moving.
William, you have just said before now that the government wants to take credit to use as a campaign tool. That's why we are where we are.
It's the politics of everything that is hurting us. I mean, anyway.
Well, it's 7:55 on 3FM 92.7. We'll cross over to Nigeria. Komla Kluche will join us in a bit.
I ask you to be citizens.
I ask you to be citizens.
Citizens, not spectators.
Citizens, not spectators.
Citizens, not subjects.
Citizens, not subjects.
Responsible citizens, building communities of service and a nation of character.
Responsible citizens, building your communities and our nation.
Ellen, what do you want to ask?
Actually inspiring me then, because I told you how inspired I am by that quote, to be a citizen, not a spectator. Who was actually inspiring me?
George Bush.
George Bush.
Yes, not Akufo-Addo.
Oh, credit to you, George Bush, for that inspiring comment.
Thank you. William is not happy.
I haven't said anything.
I'm playing the tapes. I'm not manufacturing it. I'm just playing the tape. That's all. Seven 7:55 is the time. Komla Kluche is joining us all the way from Nigeria. And for Leke. Komla?
Good morning. Johnny's back.
Morning, how are you?
I'm fine. I miss home.
Yeah, you miss home. The way things are happening there in Nigeria. What's going on? What can you report?
I miss food. That's all there is.
You'll be fine.
Food.
There's more Akple and Bobitaji and Bovilolo and Fetrif waiting for you.
That's fine. That's okay. But I mean, in Nigeria this morning, all appears to be calm. But I think what's of much concern is the aftermath of this election, and that's what a lot of people, election watchers, the security services, everybody is trying to monitor now. As we speak, officially, it's only one state that has had its result properly collated and declared, and that's the Ekiti state. As I speak with you this morning, we had indication that Katsina state and then Ogun state have had theirs done in the state. So the returning officers in these two states have had that done. They now have another task of moving from their various states to come to Abuja, where they need to come and justify what they collated there. And when the justification is done, they present it, then the commissioners of INEC, the national commissioners of INEC, will approve it, and then it's keyed into the database. So as of yesterday, it was only one. Officially, as I speak, it's only Ekiti State that has been declared by the INEC. But the concern on the street, many are saying, is the fact that there's been some delays, especially in some states, that, I mean, it's been almost, voting was on Saturday, almost, this is the second day after Saturday. Results have not been collated in those states, and that's becoming a worry for most Nigerians. They think it is not good enough because the systems that the INEC has been able to put in place, many think that with the new introductions, the beavers use and all of that, it should not have been a problem. But late last night, INEC released a statement, which I'm going to just read a copy of, where they have had to respond to some of this in one. Let me just go by this one briefly, which is challenges experienced with the INEC results viewing portal. Now, this is what is accessible, should be accessible to almost anyone who has or logs onto the INEC website. What is imputed into the system from the various states. You can have access to it even if you're not a Nigerian, I mean anywhere. Then you'll be able to view at least what the various states have put in there. Now, INEC is having technical challenges with this. So some of the states are unable to impute that into the data. And the first point, which is the INEC results viewing portal, which is called the RIEV. They've not been able to do that because of system challenges. Now, INEC is indicating that the difficulties have been acknowledged, and it's a technical one. They are not too sure what it is, what problem might have happened that they are not able to have this. But what they have done is to now give a secured email, which was undisclosed by INEC, to the various returning officers in the various states, to now be able to upload it onto that secure link, because there's a suspicion that some unscrupulous humans may be behind they not being able to have access to the RIEVs. So that's been done. That is another alternative that has been given. But as it is now, it's even just only one state that has been able to do that. But maybe hopefully today, when INEC reconvenes at 11, hopefully, we are hoping to see more than two. At least we know of two who are on their way to Abuja now. The other challenge has to do with the fact that even after you've properly done your collation in your state, you need to now move to Abuja. Some of the states do not have a direct commercial flight to Abuja. Some don't even have airport at all. So you now have to be in a vehicle and get into another state where you'll be able to have a connecting flight into Abuja. And it takes hours. You know how vast Nigeria is. That is one of the challenges that they are facing now. It's one of the reasons they have upgraded the system. But what the arrangement is that you cannot be doing that once in your state. You need to come to Abuja, the National Collation Center, to be able to have your result properly vetted by the national commissioners, and then that can be declared to the whole of Nigeria.
I see.
That is what the situation is now.
Kamla, is the APC breaking the 8 in Nigeria?
I think that is quite a difficult question to ask. In fact, on the lips of many people, it does appear that they may be winning some of the states from their own calculation. But, you know, one of the things that affect Nigerian elections is also fake news. Some of the parties, in fact, I am yet to actually receive any press conference by the APC or the PDP or even Labour as of yet. But my understanding is that everybody is doing their own coalition. figures have been thrown out there and all that. But one of the cautions that INEC has given is the fact that Nigerians and Africa, for that matter, should be mindful of a lot of fake news that comes out of this kind of exercises. If you're not very careful, you may be led into an area where you might think that one party has won, but if the result is not nationally correlated, it cannot be declared for any of the parties. It is because of that reason why when even the returning officers from the various states come, they are subjected to further scrutiny by the party representatives and also the national commissioners of INEC. Let me give you an instance of 2019 when we were here. There was one of the officers from, I think, Plateau State or so, the Jos area. He came here and was declaring what he collated over there. And there were issues or there were genuine concerns which the party agent, and in fact, this was actually from both the APC and then the PDP, their party reps or agents at the National Coalition themselves, they picked up. And even INEC itself had those indications. When he came, the figures that they transmitted ahead was different from what he came to read. In fact, the INEC boss will take the hard copy. He will not depend on the soft one that has been sent. And if you bring the hard copy, the verification is where they cross-check both of them. And they do it one by one to ensure that everything is the same. Now, when and that was a professor who came, quite embarrassing. The figures he submitted via online ahead of his coming to Abuja was totally different from what was in the hard copy. And the fumbling was done. In fact, the INEC boss asked him to go back to his state, redo it, and he was given a time to return because they needed it. In fact, he was given 2 days, and within that 2 days, he went back to his state, he corrected it, and came back. And that was quite embarrassing. So nobody would want to go through such an experience again. That's why you need to be very careful about it. Yesterday, the Ekiti one had absolutely no concerns whatsoever. In fact, when the party agents were asked whether they were satisfied with it, they nodded, and the INEC boss told them, no, we want you to speak into the microphone. Are you satisfied with the result? And yes, indeed, they said, we are satisfied.
It looks like we started with 4 strong candidates. Now we have a 3-horse race. What could be the changing fortune or dynamics, if you will?
The coming in of Peter Obi, especially, from many of the young people, they tell you that he resonates with them. And he resonates with them with respect to the fact that he is quite young, the charisma, the energy, and also the fact that, he's been able to play to the theatrics that most Nigerians, especially the younger generation, want. Age is on his side, and the fact that, he's speaking the same language that the young people want to hear. That is what is making many people think that he can do something. He may probably not be able to win, but they think that, yes, the energy, the drive is there, it's been recognized. But for the mere fact that he had a stint with the PDP, that gives some people also that kind of uncomfortability that, if you're voting for Labour, are we voting for PDP? Mind you, Peter Obi left the PDP to join or form what is the Labour Party. That is what has come to become the third force. And that is what all the people are talking about. For the two leading, that is Tinubu of the APC and also Atiku of the PDP. And many people say, if you're voting for Bola Tinubu, of course you're the vote is for Baba, and you know what the Baba means. They're
Right,
talking about
Buhari.
and many things.
Come on, let me ask you this. We saw videos which you shared with us of violence, of polling stations being destroyed, disrupted, voting here and there, people actually being threatened that if you came to vote for party A or B, you better go home and all of that. In terms of election security and people's comfort and peace of mind to cast their ballot, what would you say?
This particular election witnessed increment in the number of security that was deployed. In fact, in 2019, the deployment was a little over 300,000, but this time around, they deployed well over 426,000 of them, not just the Nigerian police force, but also the military and other para-state security agencies. And in fact, they were visibly seen on the streets and also at the police stations. And a lot of them were in the plain clothes, that I must say, but you can see very well that these are state security people. They foresaw that there could be violence and all that. For instance, the issue about the Lagos violence, and this was when thugs out of nowhere, voting started, and just about an hour or two into it, thugs from nowhere, stormed the polling station, vandalized the ballot box, and they took some away. Others, they destroyed it. Who they were, it wasn't known. The security men who were there were the police. They were the ones who were there. But unfortunately, they were unable to apprehend them. But not long after that, the soldiers came in. They were within the enclave, but as to how they were able to get this.
How many boys?
Three. But yesterday, there was also an incident in Kaduna, somewhere in the north over here, where at the state coalition center, some 5 individuals came and tried to cause mayhem. In a very swift manner, these 5 individuals were apprehended. As I speak with you, I'm told this morning they are going to take them to court, and then prosecution will start. A lot of people actually feel the presence of the security. They feel, but Nigeria, as we know it, there's always something new that comes out. The security sometimes, in some of the instances that we have had, they were there, some looked on for some of the violence to be perpetrated. In some instances, we are told that they themselves, and this is why we are being cautious here, they themselves, even some of these miscreants themselves who were clothed in the security uniform, to which even the IGP said investigation will be done whether or not they are real security men would be done. In those instances, they themselves snatch ballot boxes. But on the whole, I must say that this election, has been quite a peaceful one as compared to the previous ones. Yes, there were
persons living with disability had difficulty in voting. So, if you will, they were disabled. What can you share with us?
I got very emotional on Saturday when one of the young men who had come. In fact, I witnessed him going to about 3 of the units. He had an original place that he voted. When he got there, he was told that his name was not there because now they have increased the number of the polling units. He went to another one, his name was not there. He's been asked to go elsewhere. And if you look at the queues, if you are doing persons with disability and the elderly, they have a special arrangement. So if me, an unabled man, I am in the queue, and they see a disabled or an aged, they are allowed to come and vote. So one, for want of a better word, an able human being vote, and where you have an elderly or a disabled, that person,
a person living with disability.
A person living with disability. This gentleman came about 4 of the units and didn't find his name, and you can see at that point there was nobody even from the INEC or anybody from the polling electoral officers ready to even assist him. The only thing they told him was that you can check from the other ones. And he sounded so frustrated. And at the end, he gave up and said he doesn't even know what he's coming to vote for. I should look at the stress he's going through. And it was quite sad. When he was speaking, I saw that he was so down because he felt this was a better time for him to vote. He really wanted to vote. And he was telling me that he wanted to do a vote to cause change. As to what that change is, he didn't tell me, but he said he needed a certain change, but he lost that opportunity to cast the vote.
Komla, what can Ghana's Electoral Commission learn from Nigeria's Independent National Electoral Commission?
Well, I saw, unfortunately, I saw the seat for Jane Mensah reserved. All the electoral commissioners within the sub-region, normally Nigeria gives them a seat in front. They come, they also share their experiences. They support INEC and all that. I've seen her seat has been empty. I'm not too sure why there hasn't even been any rep from Ghana who is here. I've seen Peter McMahon, who is also doing monitoring over here. The lesson that can be drawn or learned from this is also the issue about transmission of results. And in fact, let me say that all the telcos came together to give a proper bandwidth to the Electoral Commission. So when it's time for transmitting of result or the transmission of result, you will see that the networks, even on your phone, the network is destabilized for INEC to use. Yesterday, we experienced that in the hall. When the chairman was addressing the nation, you see all the networks was jammed because they needed to allocate a certain bandwidth to the INEC.
Right.
So one of the things that I think Ghana can learn is maybe have that collaboration, a stronger collaboration with the telcos regarding the transmission of results. Well, our EC has said that they've done quite a lot in the past. We also know of some areas that network is a challenge. Now, the issue about sending of logistics over here in Nigeria, because of the scarcity of Naira before the election, it was quite difficult for them to send materials. Now, as we speak, it was quite evident that it was one of the reasons that delayed the starting of the vote. That's why some of the states, as we speak now, they are still doing collation and all that. There's no state voting as of yet. No, there's no information to that effect. But for collation to still be going on, more than 48 hours, that is actually a big deal. And you can understand it's because this is Nigeria. This is the largest when it comes to population on the continent.
Komla, before I let you go to enjoy some pounded yam, I hope Abeku has been a good boy.
Your Sedu has been quite good. I've been stretching him. I've been giving him a lot of tough time working, and of course this is his first time doing this. I am doing this for the third time. It's an experience for him. I'm glad. Yesterday when we got to the conference center, we have a pass, that allows us to do the monitoring and all that. And you need another pass to enter into the conference center. We got there and the Nigerian Koti dealt with him. He said, no, those were his words that he used. But I said, well, that is the experience. What they do is that they change the rules every 10 minutes. Every 10 minutes, even vehicle, our access vehicle that we were using, you can enter at a point, and then the next minute you're turning, you can't do it again. You now have to go another route, or the vehicle has to go down somewhere. You carry your tripod. And Abeku was saying, if I have to be carrying my tripod, walking almost about 2 kilometers to the conference center, it's going to be difficult. But I told him that, hey, on the day of the declaration, the last day, it's going to be more tense. In fact, security will be extremely tight. Now security is top-notch at the conference center. On the day of the declaration, it will be more when they are set to do it. So we are fine. It's just that we miss food. You have your dollar, but you don't have naira, you can eat. but we are managing with KK. I don't eat KK, but for the first time, Charlie Jack, I'm eating KK. I don't know.
Enjoy yam and moi and nkobi and esiu and all those ones that you can find.
There's no naira to even enjoy it, my brother.
No, you'll be fine.
The naira is not there.
You'll be fine. DJ Phil, play something.
Of course, I'll be fine. I know I'll be fine.
Thank you very much indeed for your time this morning.
Appreciate it, my brother.
Great.
Sunrise. 3FM Sunrise. FM Sunrise.
As you know, we're heading towards the very first Kobe Festival, 4th March. 3FM is bringing the best makers of beans and gari and everything else, Kobe, together for 4th March Independence Saturday. We're inviting everybody to come. So this is how it is. This is how it's done. I'm sure you know. And on that day, there will be a lot of this and many more on the ground. So watch out for the details. And it's on 4th March. And I invite you to the 3FM Made in Gourmet Festival. See you there. Nice. This is my lunch today. This is Kobe. Plantain, these beans, all mixed up nice. And as you know, we're heading towards the very first Kobe Festival, 4th March. 3FM is bringing the best makers of beans and gari and everything else, Kobe, together for 4th March Independence Saturday. We're inviting everybody to come. So this is how it is. This is how it's done. I'm sure you know. And on that day, there will be a lot of this and many more on the ground. So
Invest in Lakeside Estate 2, 3, 4 bedroom houses available at very affordable prices and secure your money.